Okay, hello, and thanks everyone for joining us for the first episode of Crypto Asia TV featuring Hashkey Capital. I'm your host, Lou Kerner with Crypto Mondays, and I had the opportunity to visit Crypto Asia 4 times last year, and it was really a revelation. The excitement, the community, the money being made, the money being invested, and most importantly, I think, the innovation. And if you haven't visited Crypto Asia, I think it's really hard to have an appreciation for the community there and for the general level of activity there. And that's why we're excited to bring Crypto Asia to you. We're super excited for our first guest, Sunny Hay and Jupiter Zheng with Hashkey Capital, one of Asia's most active crypto VCs. And we're going to start the call with a presentation from the Hashkey team. And feel free during the call to put your questions in. You can put them in the chat. There's a Q&A function. And this is going to be a really interactive call. I'll be asking questions if I think they're good, good questions from the audience. We'll actually even open up your video and you can ask the question directly and even engage in a bit of a dialogue and a discussion. The cool thing is, most of the people dialing into a call like this are actually pretty deep in the subject matter. So a lot of the best of what happens on the Crypto Z TV shows is the interaction. And so with that, I'd like to hand over the screen to Sunny and Jupiter.
Sure. Hey, thank you, Lou, for having us here. So Jupiter, do you want to share the screen?
Sure.
Yeah, so it's actually a really great honor to be here and sharing our experience and insights into the Asia landscape. And I see some familiar names in the audiences, and probably this time I'll just take you guys to a much deeper view of Hashkey and our background and what is going on in Asia right now. So before we get into the topic, I would like to take this great opportunity to share a little bit about who we are and who is Hashkey. Hashkey is really a very brand new name, and our capital was incepted in October 2018. But our parent company, probably people in this space have heard of, we are backed by Zheng Group, which is one of the largest conglomerates in mainland China, and with major business in car parts manufacture. And our parent group is operated in 60 countries, and with a 50-year history. So next slide. So besides the car parts manufacture business, we are also one of the very few big financial institution operators in mainland China, and one of the very few company has the full license in the financial space. So our parent group operated in the traditional finance background, so insurance, bank, trust, those services. But also in 2011. Our parent group started to getting into the fintech space and setting up operations in big data analytics and payment or open banking. So our parent group really getting into the blockchain space in 2015, and we made our first investment into Ethereum. Also, this is the first corporate investment from for the Ethereum Foundation. And in the same year that we also set up our parent group also set up another $15 million fund, which is Finbushi Capital. And in the same year that our parent group also organized a Zheng blockchain lab. So together with Zheng Blockchain Lab, Finbushi Capital, and Hashkey, in the past 5 years, we have already deployed around $200 million into around 200 projects already in the past several years. And basically, as you can see here, most of the projects, Definity, Pagda, Ethereum, Nervos, and other projects that big names that you have heard of, basically we are the major investor in this ecosystem. So within the Wansheng Blockchain Lab, as we mentioned, which was set up in 2015, right now, this is the in-house blockchain lab has grown into around 300 developers in-house. And this Wansheng Blockchain Lab right now is driving around 8 nationwide influential pilot programs in mainland China. And really in 2018, 2019, our Wansheng Blockchain Lab is really having multiple permissionless chain pilot program in production. For instance, we have Platon, which is one of the first MPC platform working in production with multiple financial institutions. And we have Logistic Union facilitating all the trust and their logistics, and also supply chain finance, trust services platform, IoT-based finance, and traceability and verification platform. So this is for the Wansheng part. I see some questions here, but I will try to answer all the questions before this part or the end of the conversation. So we see the trend that after 2017, people started talking about, and also institutions started to thinking about how to get into blockchain space and how to participate into this ecosystem. So as we see this trend, so we decided to be prepared and fully embracing this trend of institution wave. So that's why we set up a Hashkey brand in Hong Kong, being regulated and fully compliant. So under the Hashkey whole brand, we have multiple business units and services, including the crypto exchange, digital wallet, trading services, custodian, and OTC services. And Hashkey Capital is the investment arm under the Hashkey brand. And right now, Hashkey Capital is running 2 funds. Total have $130 million under asset management. And next slide. We position, Jupiter, next slide, please. So we actually, last year alone, we have screened around 500 projects and made 25 investments in 2019 and deployed around $40 million in 2019. And we position ourselves as a early stage full spectrum ecosystem investor. Basically, we invest in a very broad spectrum from the fundamental technology infrastructure, financial infrastructure, and application and tools. So this is a very high-level overview of Hashkey, our parent group, and our history in this space. So a very long history, long-term investor, a ecosystem provider, and also we will try our best to be one of the most active one and continue to contribute to this space. So I'll pause here and pass the time to Jupiter, and he will give us an overview of what is going on right now in Asia and in the blockchain space.
Okay, thank you, Sunny. Am I heard?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thanks, Sunny. Thanks, Lo. I'm glad to be here and glad to have these opportunities to share our thoughts and also ideas and observations in investment side, also the fundraising side. So what I will bring in my part of sharing is 2 parts. The first is crypto funding paradigm shift. I will give some macro changes or macro trend in the recent 2 to 3 years. And second part is I will give some detailed go through about top Asia crypto VC fund to look at their investment, also the fundraising, and to see their investment in this field, give some thoughts for the audience. Okay, the first is crypto funding paradigm shift. Here I used a study from PwC, which did quite beautiful work for the crypto funding and also the MA statistics in the last 2 years. Especially, we can have 5 key takeaways to comparing these 2 years. The first, the major funding is that there was a sharp decline in the deal volumes and values for the crypto fundraising, also the MAA in 2019, and also investment has been shifted towards Asian, EMEA, and into more diversified sectors. from the first take, I mean the left picture, we can see that the total value of fundraising is 3.8 billion in 2018, but a sharp drop into the 2.2 billion in 2019. So we see that also the count of the deals have been dropped slightly in about 18%. So we can see that every deal that had the fundraising has been squeezed. So for the second take is that we see the deals by geography has been diversified. We see that 55% of the total fundraising goes to Americas in 2018, but I think the rebalanced in the last year. We see that the percentage of America has been dropped to 48%, but the percent of APAC and also EMEA have been increased a lot. We see that they were
Sunny, just going back just to the last slide when you were talking about the increase in the percentage of deals in Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Any thoughts about kind of what countries were leading that?
Well, I think maybe from our observations, we think China or Pan-Asia area, especially the Southeast Asia, will take a lot of part. As we see, the China has the largest community of the blockchain industry. We also see that the project in the Southeast Asia is quite active in recent 1 or 2 years, especially regarding the cross-border remittance technology or platform that using blockchain blockchain technologies. So as our first line experience, we see that China also, including the South Asia, will take a lot of part in the APAC part. So here's my answer.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, I will go on. And for the third take is you see that the crypto's business model has been fundraising has been going diversified, increase a lot. So we see a lot of new projects using new business model. We never seen that before, has been occurred in the last year. So we are happy to see that because blockchain industry has been involved almost 12 years, and the traditional ways of doing crypto blockchain will have endured some major changes in recently. We see that happens. So the first take is that the crypto industry continues to mature. So the fundraising has tended to be towards later stage companies. We see quite a large part in the 2018's fundraising goes to the seed fundraising, but this has been reduced to 59% in 2019. We see that a lot of projects, maybe you as a seed in 2018, but you become the later or more mature stages in 2019. We will be and need a second round of fundraising. So we see that the mature has become more and more in the last year, and so early stage may become late stages. Series A may become Series B, seed may become to Series A. That's kind of trend that quite naturally happens. So the fifth takes is that we see there's a lot of consolidation in the crypto industry continued in 2019 with crypto incumbents driving most of activities. A lot of top deals were strategic in nature and driven by other crypto companies or crypto focused funds. So there's some strategic turn or shift between different periods. So this is my second part of crypto fundraising paradigm shift. The third is we did a detailed research about how is the APAC's fundraising situation, especially we compare the first quarter of 2020 compared to the last year. So we see a sharp decrease from 60 fundraising count to only 15 in this year. That's a lot of quite a drop in the deal counts. So we will draw conclusion that this year's fundraising situation will be tougher than the last year. I say like you see a lot of industry, and also the global economy will be impacted by the COVID-19, and so the situation and also financial market is going to not quite good as before. So it will be definitely have an effect on the premier market fundraising. So we see that APAC crypto market experienced a sharp decline. We see also the China market share still stable, and we see a lot of fundraising in Singapore as it has been established a quite good friendly crypto-friendly compliance structure that led by the MAS. And also we see that deal allocation by verticals experienced a minor shift. So VC prioritize investment in infrastructure and also the trading verticals. So we will see the from the fundraising paradigm shift, we will see that compared to 2018, 2019 is going through a sharp drop. But for this year, we see the situation is still not quite good. So maybe in the future, about 2 years, we'll go into a very not quite good situation also for the fundraising and for investment. So we have to be selective and also strategic in the way that we're doing the investment. So here's some examples how our top Asia crypto ventures capitals be doing in this area. Here we list 6 top VCs. I think the IDG Capital and also Secura is quite familiar with the audience of this show. And for the 4 in the middle, including our Hashkey Capital, is a crypto fund that is a VC fund that doing crypto investment exclusively. So Hashkey Capital, Sandy has introduced before. Fenbushi Capital is the first China VC fund that doing the crypto investment since 2015. And also the NGC, which is New Global's venture capital arms. New is a very established permissionless chain in China. Also, we have FBG Capital, which performs quite good in the past years, and also very active in this field. So we here present a third-party research of how this top crypto VC is doing investment. So we can see that Hashkey and Fenbushi investment a lot in the last years. For our own situations, because Hashkey Capital is established its company structure in late 2018. So in the last year, we put a lot of effort in this investment activities. So we invest a lot. Nearly 30 projects have been conducted. From the from directions or the categories, we divide into 7 different categories of crypto or blockchain industries. So we can see we are not. I'm not going to very detail about each project or each directions, but we can see the names around these different directions. We can see that Asia VC is maybe quite interested on the public chain related, and also the trading ecosystem, also the wallet. But for the DeFi or CeFi for ourselves, we are quite prudent in the DeFi area. So you may heard some hacking incidents occurred in recent 2 months. So I think DeFi is still in the early stage. For the STO, it's quite need a lot of work to deal with compliance and a lot of cost. So I think it's not still a mature business model. So we will keep looking, but we are quite see these potentials in the future, because digital tokenization and asset tokenization is maybe a large flow in a large trend in the future. So here we can conclude into that the Asia crypto VC fund directions. So the first is we can emphasize the APAC VC fund emphasize the following areas of investment in the blockchain ecosystem, including public chains, crypto exchanges, and decentralized wallets. And also we have listed some 10 projects that arouse interest at least by 2 VC funds. I mean, this 10 project has been received investment from at least 2 VC funds from these 5 top VC in Asia. So we can see there's a permissionless chain, we can see node operator, we can see the media community, so quite diversified. And from our side, I think we will still diversify our investment this year, also quite selective in this area. So for the next part, I will hand over to Sunny to have a detailed introduction of the major Asia blockchain players. Sunny.
Sure. Thanks, Jupiter, for the micro overview of what is happening right now in Asia. So besides the VCs, which we just talked about, who injected huge amount of capital into the space in Asia alone, the major players, like here in the US, JPM and Facebook, they're definitely paving the wave for blockchain initiatives here in the US or in Europe. And there are a huge list of companies from the government, from the financial institutions, enterprises, startup, SMEs, small and medium companies. They're all in this space driving multiple different initiatives or blockchain projects in mainland China or across the whole Asia regions. So people right now, we're talking about the CBDC, but apparently everyone knows that People's Bank of China has paving a good way in the DCEP, the digital currency and electronic payment. And last week, we have seen multiple pilot program live in China already. And basically the DCEP has already using the wallet integrated into multiple wallets in the financial institutions and started testing, small micro payment or like salary payment. So we can see a very fast forward moving in this initiatives for the DCEP. And besides the government-driven projects, tech companies and financial institutions are also playing a very important roles in this space. And I would say that they have two major roles placed in the space. First of all, they basically define the standard. So like Zheng and WeBank back in 2014, that we work on the B course, which is the GitHub, one of the first open source platform in mainland China. And right now, multiple projects are building on top of the B course. And the second role they're playing is definitely providing a blockchain as a service. And they're providing this service to multiple enterprises and in the vertical, for instance, supply chain finance, MPC, multi-party computing platform, or asset tokenization or loyalty program, those verticals. And from not only our internal data, but also what we see is going on. And these projects in different verticals has moving forward very fast and in real alive and productions. And besides those big technology companies, there are also some startups which people doesn't probably even never heard of, but they actually play a very active role in the whole ecosystem, not only within China, but also in the global agenda. For instance, one of the companies that I would like to highlight is Chain IDE. They're basically providing a very unique developer IDE solution. And they're not only supporting the initiatives in mainland China, but also supporting Ethereum Foundation, and also even the Libra projects right now, and public chains. Also, people may heard of Neo, Ontology, VChain, and Qtum, the first wave of public chains in mainland China, which has really gained their reputation globally. But also these past 2 years, some new public chains coming out and also drive some major development on the blockchain side as well, like Platon, the first MPC platform, working with multiple first-tier institutions in mainland China or across the Southeast Asia regions. And also, for instance, like Nervos, which they've done a very successful launch last year on CoinList. And right now they're working with Hobby and with China Merchant Bank, developing a financial chains and basically providing solutions to the financial institutions. And those are just several selected names that I wanted to highlight here, but there are actually a huge long list of players in the space, which right now they are really boosting the ecosystem and develop of the blockchain as a technology, as a service, and or as a product. And not only in mainland China, but also in Asia, in Korea, in Japan, and in Thailand, across the Southeast countries. So we see enterprises like Kakao, one of the largest messenger app in Japan, in Korea, and Line Corp, the largest messenger app in Japan. They're basically working, use their huge user base and driving those user base onto the platform, the blockchain platform they are working on, and trying to create, I wouldn't say something similar to Libra, but they're also trying to enable some financial innovations in this space. And LightNet, basically coming out of the, supported by the CP Group, one of the conglomerates in Thailand, with the exclusive access into 7-Eleven stores across the Southeastern countries. And those are some very unique cases that targeted in different countries, special situation, and with the technology of blockchain, try to empower either the global remittance or supply chain finance, multiple use cases in blockchain space. So this is just a very high level, highlights of what is going on in Asia, the major players, but actually there's a huge long list of players in this space that we wouldn't be able to cover all of them here. So Jupiter, I will just pass the time to you to see the outlook of 2020.
Thank you, Sunny. I will give my outlook for 2020 and also the beyond. I think it's maybe a toughest part of this presentation. Also, think that 2020 is not an unusual year for most of our companies and also projects in this space. So we think from the investing and the portfolio management side, our company I think has been. I think the COVID-19 has impacted us less than the others, because in normal days we are getting used to distributed working, so distributed operations. We have staff based in Hong Kong, in Shanghai, and also in San Francisco. So normally we are doing in a distributed paradigm. So for the portfolio management, because as far as we know that we also have some portfolio review in recent days to see their situations, especially regarding the COVID-19 situations. We see some projects have been ask their staff to work at home, and so I think maybe some project or process, and also also the developing the coding and also operations maybe have some little impact. I think it is not just for our portfolios. I think it's for the majority of the project in this field. So I think the roadmap of most projects may be a little bit delayed or postponed in this year, or maybe some major milestones will be pushed into next year. So also for the new fundraise, as I mentioned before, we see that this year may be a tough year for the fundraising. So I may have some suggestion for the project. If you have any opportunities to get new funds, even in a lower valuation, or you have any other M&A acquisition, merger and acquisition opportunities, so consider it seriously, especially better for your project, also for your dream. And the third is how COVID impact our investment, also business operations. And I think as an investment firm, we will see a lot of cycles of the economy changes, also financial market changes. And for the blockchain industry, it's still under the regime of the global macro environmental changes. So we will see a lot of opportunities occurs in this area. For example, the BIS, the Bank of International Settlement, has in his report recently has claimed that CBDCs may be spurred by this COVID-19 situation, because in recent days the cashless, also the the touchless thesis has been arise in the news and media a lot. people will be looking, give a lot of look at the CBDCs and also the digital token payments in this new situation. So give a lot of chances to have this to be developed. You may heard that the DCEP, which is China CBDC, has revealed some new progress in the social medias, and we see that development has been has been accelerated. We see some new, maybe some prototypes or even the pilot scheme to be launched in later this year. So still quite exciting project. And also we see that a lot of blockchain technology has been matured, and basically has some alternative tools for the new economy situation, especially for the cross-border remittance, cross-border payments. We can see a lot of potential and solutions here. And yeah, here's how COVID also impact our investment, but we see a lot of investment opportunities here. So we'll dig them out and find the true jewelry from them. And so I think the industry evolving in the 2019, I think the blockchain industry is still in the early stages. So we will see a lot of new projects, including the Ethereum 2.0, the second generation of Ethereum, and also some large major cross-chain project like Polkadot, another, and the new permission that we launched their mainnet in this year. So we think the industry still evolving in a healthy way that we can see a lot of opportunities here. So we'll keep our efforts to be still stable, and we will find new opportunities here. So as a conclusion, I hope the whole industry to be healthy, the staff in staff, and also the people in this industry to be healthy and keep working. And I think we have to be very stick to our basis, our interest, and also our long-term visions to make the blockchain, also the crypto industry, to be flourish in the future. And thank you. This is my sharing. Thank you, Lo.
That was terrific, Sunny. Jupiter, there's just tons and tons of information there. So I'm sure everybody enjoyed it. And, we had some questions from the audience, and so as I said to the folks who asked some questions, we'll start with Constantine. And so Constantine, let's see, we can promote you to a panelist, and if you've got your video open, you should be able to appear via video, or if you just want to ask the question via your microphone.
Oh, hey, I thought I just type in the chat. Hi, Sunny. Hi,
hey,
Jupiter.
Constantine.
Great to hear you guys, and yeah, such a great overview. I was curious, obviously you guys have a really unique position in the ecosystem, and I think it's an interest. Like, I was wondering how you guys compare yourselves if you have to do like the sort of brand mashup, like kind of the Coinbase DCG of Asia. Like, how do you define yourselves? And then and then really the two core questions, which is, what's your US strategy, and how do you see the US market evolved and affected in 2020 specifically? And then lastly, what are your thoughts on Binance, and how do you interact with those guys?
Sure. Probably I can share a little bit thoughts on our branding and our plans in the US, and also, Binance is definitely one of the most respected company in this space. Happy to talk about on Binance as well. Okay. So for we are sort of very happy and flattered by being in the industry just for only 18 months, I would say. And people here started to compare us with Coinbase and DCG. And just humbly speaking, that from a product line and business unit wise, definitely we cover most of the business which Coinbase and DCG are doing right now. But apparently, humbly speaking, that they've been in the industry for the past several years, and Hashkey as a group, we just set up with almost 2 years, not 2 years yet. I would say that there are there are a lot of things that we have continued to build on and continue to do. But similarly, that I would say that both Coinbase and DCG and Hashkey, we were set up in the space to embrace the institution coming into the space. And similarly that we are being fully compliant and being fully regulated, and which is get ready for those institutions. Basically, we put everything ready from a regulatory infrastructure, technology infrastructure for, and also financial infrastructure for those institutions coming into the space. And we basically set a foundation for them. And what we also see that, institution investors or players in different regions, they have definitely preferences. So Asia institutions, they may have preferences into Asia as well, into Asia platform. That's basically gave a access for the regional players and access into the space and lay a foundation for them. This is how we compare ourselves, and definitely there are just a lot from Coinbase and DCG that we have to learn from, and they are definitely one of the most respected institutions that we have to continue to learn from what they're doing. And for the branding and our activities in the US, we really started to roll out Hashkey's business in US really from June last year, since I think me and some other colleagues joining Hashkey, and we started to do very active sourcing and investment here in the US. And this year is actually, this is, thanks Lou, again, this is definitely the first time that we are doing a live video in the US alone and here in the English community. And we will definitely do more. And also we will try to be very helpful for the ecosystem here in the US. Companies like Blockdaemon, one of the best companies that we see this year, just providing our support and resources that we have built out in Asia, and the huge network resources that we have in Asia, and supporting all our portfolios here in the US, and to help them to be more effective and connected in where we are and our sweet spot. In the meantime, that definitely we're just trying to be a bridge and trying to be a good connector in between our sweet spot and here in the US, and connecting the two ecosystems together. This is how I feel about what Hashkey can do and how we position ourselves here in the US. And Binance, definitely one of the most respected company in the space, and they've been done a great job in this space, and becoming one of the top leading exchange just in 2 years, I would say. And very innovative from what I see, that they're very innovative from a product perspective and from their platform perspective. And they recently launched a beginning of the year, end of last year, they launched their future and option trading. And recently, I think just this week, they launched a pool mining, and very lucky that they got 4 blocks within a day, right? So they are very, very productive on the product innovation, and basically just leading the trend with the big user base that they have already, and they can just push out all the products very quickly to globally. And what I've seen, that they've done an amazing job in leveraging the local resources, not only here in the US, but also in most of the countries globally. And they have built up a very active and engaging community, which I would say we should definitely learn from. And one of the most deep liquidity platform they're doing, and they're launching multiple technology product as well, like Binance Cloud recently this year. I think from product perspective, very innovative and very really driving the trend of this industry. So this is based on my limited knowledge about finance and a limited interaction with the team. But apparently very respected team and very diligent team that I have ever seen in this space.
Okay, terrific. So next we'll hear, I got a question from Matthew Lemerle. Matthew, you should be able to speak.
Yes, Lou, it's good to be here. For full disclosure, I'm one of the general partners at Blockchain Co-Investors. We're the world's leading blockchain venture fund of funds, but it also means that we have a little bit of a vested interest here. We're in the middle of due diligence on Hashkey, and it's the reason I joined today. But here's my question. Yeah, and it's good to meet you both.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so here's my question. Just before Christmas, President Xi, the Chinese president of the People's Republic of China, was extremely positive about blockchain. And he even went as far as to say it'd be part of the next five-year industrial plan. And here we are several months later. And of course, most large countries are changing their priorities. They're ramping up life sciences and pandemic control and other initiatives that are very important. So from Hashkey's point of view, where does blockchain sit right now on the Chinese national industrial priority list?
Yeah, I can just touch a little bit, and Jupiter probably speak to that. He better have. So the policy has been very consistent, and just last week or 2 weeks ago, and the government and central government and reinsurance the national plan for the next 5-10 years. And blockchain is still one of the national level and major priority focus in the national infrastructure for the next 5-10 years. And that includes the 5G, blockchain, IoT, and big data, and also healthcare is also one of the priority. And the policy doesn't change because of the pandemic, and has been very consistent. And to our point of view right now, blockchain as a way distributed way, ledger connecting the data, a new format way to organizing the data, basically connecting 5G, IoT, and all the infrastructure level of technology. So right now, from an industry perspective, we started to see the discussion, and also from the industry experts that we see more and more potential emerging technology, the technology emerging into each other from the 5G, IoT, and the blockchain, and big data, AI. All those new technologies will be emerging into each other and to be interacted with each other. So this is a very new thing after the pandemic that we're seeing, and after the central government released the new reassurance of the policy. So this is what we see, and probably Jupiter can touch a little bit on that.
So let me just ask more specifically then.
Sure.
When technologies have gone into the Chinese industrial plan before, a lot of capital, government capital, has been put behind those technologies. And we saw that with big data and cloud computing and so on. What do you specifically expect the Chinese government to do now to support blockchain and crypto?
Jupiter, do you want to touch base on this, or do you want me to go ahead?
Okay, I can go through this part.
Sure.
What I think is because the blockchain has been quite been raised by central banks to a high level in the last end of last year, as you mentioned before. So I think the whole industry and also the whole economy still have time to prepare for the how to develop the structure and also the blueprint of the blockchain space. Because before the last year, this kind of policy shift, the China's situation or the China's sentiment regarding the crypto and the blockchain is not quite that good, because that the policy changes in 2017, that especially regarding to the virtual asset exchanges has been the policy has been straightened for into a quite high level. So people in this field may have had some concern over the past 2 years. But in China, you have noticed that the blockchain space, the blockchain technology is quite a different thing between compared to the virtual asset or the crypto assets. It's a different policy attitude by the central government and also the local government. So, but you know that the cryptocurrency maybe have a faster pace to develop, but for true technology, you need a lot of more time to develop, especially not just in China. We see the technology around the world, the technology of the blockchain is still in early stages, right? In early stages. So we need a lot of preparation for that. For the government side, we can see a lot of funding plans for the government, not only central government, also from the local government. They they will build some scientific park, that kind of thing, that will collect a lot of blockchain players, especially the technology-focused ones, to this kind of scientific part to develop their own technologies, and they will give a very low rent for them. A lot of positive policies for them to develop, and also to make sure they will have some plans with the local government, because the local government still have some, they have budget. They will have their next year's fundings allocations. So if the policy of the next 5 years has addressed the blockchain as quite a major directions, the government will have the potential to also have the motivations to allocate their fund to the blockchain technology side. So I think this is quite realistic way that the blockchain technology in China will be spurred by maybe by the government fundings, or maybe by the government or SOEs or other government-related organizations. And also from another way, that this impact will be expanded, not just in the government cycle, but also to the industry or the private sector cycles. They will see a lot of trend aroused in the government. We will see there's a positive trend that's supported by governments, and a lot of private companies will join this trend to develop more blockchain technology platform, or help more just early stages project to get into mature. So the thing is quite complicated. We have to see it in different angles. Also, we can see that we have mentioned before that the CBDC plan in China, DCEP, has been developed for more than, I think it's more than
6 years.
3 to 4 years, yes. And the central bank, the PBOC, has established the central bank's digital currency research institutions focused on the CBDC's development. So from the central bank's point of view, this is definitely a good investment. It's a good instrument that can be deployed in the future. So also with the Libra's plan has been changes. Also, its launches in this year. The CBDC's progress may be accelerated. So it's also another way to spur the whole industry into a new space, into a new pace to develop more in this year. And also, now I think the blockchain technology has been reached to a high level that has been equal to the big data, cloud computing, and also the other kind of so-called new infrastructure in China context. So I think it's a new direction that need a lot of investment and a lot of support from also, not only from the government, also from the private sectors. So here's our thought. Maybe not comprehend, but this is our thinking. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, that was super thoughtful. So Matthew, you're good. Okay, he's got his mic shut. We've got another question.
Yeah, yes, I am. Thank you, Luke.
Okay. From Tom Gooch. Tom?
Thanks, Lou. Hello, Sunny and Jupiter. Thank you for the presentation. I'm just kind of a little guy in this big ecosystem, and we're in the process of launching a security token. So I have two questions for you. What is your feeling regarding projects attempting to launch in mainland China? Because our project pretty much decided not to go to China initially because of the regulatory issues. But I believe that the sheer numbers make China a very desirable place to launch. And then the second thing is, Jupiter, you said something about the potential issues with launching any kind of blockchain technology in 2020. What's your feeling about launching a security token in 2020? And if you think it is reasonable, do you have any advice that you would you'd be willing to share?
Do you want to go this question about the security token and STO? Hey, you muted yourself.
Sorry. For the STO, I think we may mention that we have, our Hashkey group has invested in a STO platform called Prometheum in the US. It's doing the STO business around the US. So we are quite optimistic in the STO directions. For if you ask me how about the issuing security token in the 2020, I think a lot of project has been tried in the last years, especially from the going through the Reg D or the Reg A. We also we see there's a project called Blockstack. Have been issuing its Reg D tokens through the SEC. So I think the whole structure that issuing STOs is quite mature in the US regulatory landscape. So I think it's similar to compared to the traditional IPO or other kind of security issuing or placement in the traditional finance world, that all things are maybe the main issuing things are related to the quality of the project. I think we see a lot of IPOs has been dealing with some less valuable asset to be listed. So their goes down after they got listed. But for the STO, I think there's the same situation. If your underlying asset or the underlying the cash flow aggregations is quite good, you will make sure. And I think the market will give a correct answer, and it will give a quite good valuation of the whole STO thing. So basically, I think STO in the US is quite similar to the traditional equity or stock issuing. So maybe they are just some size differences, but the nature is the same. So I do expect some STO to be launched, especially some project to using STO, this kind of vehicles to launch their tokens, especially can expand their liquidity towards the investors in the US and maybe in the investors outside US. So this is what I thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. You know, I'll finish because we just got a couple more minutes here. I'll just finish with the question of, you know, you brought up central bank digital coins and obviously what's going on in China. You know, if you wanted to add anything to that, but also talk about, you know, if there's any interest in, you know, a CBDC work being done outside of China in Asia, and also if you have any thoughts on stablecoins. Obviously, I think in crypto, they have been probably the most exciting thing this year, just in terms of going up and to the right.
So I think it's definitely a big topic. Actually, we are working on a project and together with Nomura Research and also here in the US that particular detailing what is DCEP, DCEP, CBDC in China, in Japan, and here in the US and Europe. And that project possibly will launch in about several weeks. and that project going to be detailing about the technology, about the CBDC, and how they're going to be impact on the mobile payment or the society cashless payment in Japan and here in the US and Europe, and also how the stable coin itself going to be impact the monetary policy overall. This is definitely a very, very huge topic that we wouldn't be able to cover just within 4 minutes here. But happy to have another session talking into details about this project in particular, and also we will launch our project soon on this topic, because Jupiter and I and our partners has been working in the past several months, working into details and explaining what exactly the mechanism working on and potential impact into society as a whole, or just as a technology itself. So happy to address overall there. And for the stablecoin, Jupiter, do you want to touch a little bit on the stablecoin and potentially the innovation it can be brought into the society?
Yes. Okay. Sunny, thank you. And I think for the stablecoin, the industry may see a lot of quite a large trend of USDT, and also the new aroused USDC or other kind of compliance oriented stablecoin in the US. I think the stablecoin issuing structure and also the compliance structure in the US is quite mature. So a lot of companies, a lot of players in the US choose, like from New York, from other states, to issue their digital stable coins. So also we see that from the new Libra white paper, that Libra will maybe launch its new version of Libra coin, the Libra US coin, maybe in the US. So I think the stable coin is quite large opportunities, especially for the US players. But for China, we have seen a lot of people using the USDT, but we have not quite a mature, especially for the compliance-oriented structure to issue this stuff. But we are quite interested. I see, as you may see, that USDT's trading volume is quite large in the crypto exchanges, especially in the crypto-to-crypto exchanges. As we mentioned, Binance, other kind of well-known exchanges, it will take a lot of part. So we will see a major, maybe another trend in the future, that when Libra launches USD coins, maybe they will have some changes or shift of the total stablecoin industry. So it's a good thing and also interesting to see in the future. And also we see that a lot of Asia players also want to join this game. We have seen that some Hong Kong dollar stablecoin. We see some other developing countries stablecoins in the history, but still they are still in the presence. But we do not see there are too much, ecosystem to support them. So we see that still US packed stablecoin has the largest market, and we still see that situation will be last for quite a long time. So, but the percentage, also the breakdown of each players may be changed. So we're happy to see that happens. Thank you.
Okay, well, look, that was terrific. Thanks a lot for that, Jupiter and Senny, for everything. I thought you guys really provided, incredibly insightful perspective in terms of what's going on in China and across Asia. And I think that's super helpful for folks here in the US and Europe to better understand. So thanks a lot for that. And with that, we'll say goodbye to everybody. And thanks everybody who attended.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks, Lou. Thanks,
Stay
Sunny.
well.
Thanks, Jupiter.
Bye.
Hey, thanks, Lou. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.